Welcome to Spotlight on Seniors. My name is Steve Raymond, and we're coming to you from beautiful Newcastle, Maine, on the shores of the Damariscotta River. 1 year ago, we had Executive Director Jess Maurer of the Maine Association of Area Agencies on Aging and the Maine Council on Aging speaking to us about the legislation on the table at that time, the KeepME Home Initiative, which was created by House Speaker Mark Eves as a response to the growing crisis in senior housing in our state. Speaker Eves has made the KeepME Home initiative his legislative priority, and he has been coordinating with the Maine Council on Aging and business leaders, thought leaders, leaders from the finance world throughout the state. Today, we have Speaker Eves himself here to give us an update on what has happened with the KeepME Home initiative, because over this past year, believe me, there's been an awful lot that's happened. Speaker Eves, welcome to the show.
Great. It's great to be here with you, and really look forward to talking about an issue that is near and dear to my heart, and a lot of progress that we've been able to make over the last couple of years.
Well, there has been a great deal. You have really taken a deep dive into this. Could you start by just defining the problem for us first,
Sure.
that you were seeking to address with the initiative?
Sure, and many of your watchers might know this already because it has been in the news quite a bit, but Maine is the oldest state in the nation. It's something hard to believe, but it's true. And what that means is here in a few short years, 25% of Maine residents are going to be 65 and older. We all have a personal connection to this, but the demographics in our state, we are the oldest state in the nation, and what that means for our state is we need to develop a strategy to make sure that not only are we taking care of our seniors, making sure that they can live independently in their homes, but that we are ready for the workforce challenges that we're going to have. We are going to have a workforce shortage if we don't have a strategy to replace all the retiring workers in our state. So it matters to our economy, it matters to our communities, it matters to the seniors that are wondering, am I going to be able to stay in my home? Am I going to be able to stay in my community? But overall, the big broad brushstroke is the fact that Maine is the oldest state in the nation.
Yes, precisely. And to reiterate a point, just so it doesn't go by, 1 in 4 Mainers 65 in just, I guess, by 2020 or so, just a matter of years. So, and relatively smaller, younger generation too.
That's right.
So, you started holding speaker roundtables, and you have met with, I guess, all the significant people in the state virtually. Tell us about that process.
Well, it was one that began after I got elected as speaker in 2012. We were developing our policy agenda and what we're going to be focused on in these 4 years that I was going to hopefully be in office. And two people came to the office. You mentioned one of them, Jess Maurer. She was a co-chair of the Maine Council on Aging, and John Hennessy from AARP came, and they gave the pitch around the fact that we are the oldest state in the nation, the fact that people are looking for solutions, and that we can be leaders on this as a state.
Yes.
And this really intrigued me. I served on the Health and Human Services Committee for 4 years. Prior to that, I knew many of the challenges with our demographics, and then I thought about the personal connection, that this really does impact and affect absolutely everybody. For me, it's my dad. He's going to be 93 this fall. So he had me later in his life. I wasn't supposed to be here, but I'm glad that I am. And
he's lucky you are.
Yeah, you know, I was the beneficiary of him being just about retired. And that meant that he could pick me up from school and drop me off and really be a significant part of my life. But we have seen his life change, and how it's harder to get up and downstairs, how we're worried about him falling, and just basic simple things. Now that he's chosen not to drive anymore, the transportation issues. It's personal because you watch it and you watch somebody that you love age, and we want everybody to age with dignity and in the place that they want to be. So the combination of this is a significant policy issue that needs serious attention.
Yes.
It's a personal one that touched me, and come to find out as I go around the state, everybody that I talk to, it touches. Whether you are that older person or whether you are caring for an aging parent, trying to stay in the workforce, trying to balance the fact that you really do want to do right by your parents. it was just one that I was really compelled to take some action on. And the great thing was they came with an action plan, and we started that September with a series of roundtables where we brought together business leaders, educational leaders, financial institutions, public and private safety, municipal leaders. It was a very robust group and coalition that was built out of that. And I didn't know what was going to come of it, but we sat around that table for 4 sessions and all talked about how this issue impacts each different area. And what we have typically done in state government to try to solve problems is we get state government agencies together, we get legislators together, we might get a few providers of services together and try to work it out. Well, and often that doesn't produce really great long-lasting results. So we wanted to do it a little bit differently, and that was to get the private sector involved, get those involved that this really had an impact, day-to-day impact on. We had the 4 listening sessions, or the roundtables, and then just a couple months later, we had the first annual Summit on Aging in Augusta.
Yes.
400 people showed up, and I was blown away.
Right.
And it really clued me into the fact that this is something people do care about and they're ready to take action on. So that was the beginning. We can talk about kind of the evolution of that over the
there's
last
there's
years.
a few pillars to your initiative. So the public housing, property tax relief, increased pay for healthcare workers. That's what it was built upon.
That's right, and it was really generated, those ideas were generated from these groups of people coming together to identify the need. As it relates to the affordable housing piece, the survey was done and it was identified, and many of the experts say that this is a pretty low estimate, but 9,000 seniors are currently waiting for affordable housing in our state.
5-year waiting list.
Yes, at a community to community, it's different. I'll give an example. In South Berwick, one of the communities that I represent, we just were fortunate enough to build and open affordable senior housing unit that was sited right downtown next to a elementary school, town hall, post office, pharmacy. It was very well done, and feel very fortunate to have it. It was filled up before it opened.
Wow.
And there's a wait list years long already, and it has only been a couple months. So the need is extraordinary. By the year 2020, it's going to be 15,000.
15,000. And so at one point, the governor, as I understand, had disputed that study. Is there any reason to dispute the numbers in that study?
There really isn't. I mean, you can dismiss the study, but go to your local communities and talk to those that are managing affordable housing. Talk to your town managers and see for yourself. I mean, you can't get affordable housing immediately, and that's when seniors need it. You don't usually look a few years out and say, I think that's where I want to be in a couple of years.
And another important point you made, giving that community as an illustration, was the co-location proximal to town, near healthcare resources, transportation. It's not just building units.
That's right. And in the legislation, in the bond that was passed this past November, by about 70% of the people, it was a very strong vote, a really affirmation of, I think, what we all suspected, and that was, this is an issue that Maine people care about. We built into that bond the siting aspect of it to, whenever possible, you are connected to and close to healthcare centers and resources that seniors would need. Transportation, you accounted for that. So through Maine State Housing Authority, the scoring of those applications is based on how well those sites would be cited.
Right. Now, so your initial goal when you were trying to pass legislation was to be able to achieve the $65 million bond, to be able to build 1,000 units.
That's right.
You accomplished the question 2 voters, and so that's a $15 million bond. What will you be able to do once that money is released? How will you be able to put that to use?
So it's going to be managed through the Maine State Housing Authority as typical. The amount of money will build between about 250 units across the state. We crafted the legislation in a way that every community in the state has an opportunity. In fact, it was required that in some of our rural parts of the state, they would be able to bid and receive some of the funding related to the bond and affordable housing. But to be honest, it's a drop in the bucket. It's the right direction to go in, but it is a small step. It's one that we needed to do. I wish we could have got the full $65 million bond passed through the legislature. It would have created 1,000 units in direction, in the right way. But we did what we could in the environment that we were, and the governor hasn't released the bonds yet. But I hope that the next legislature will really, apply the pressure or create the goodwill to make that happen. But as it stands right now, 9,000 seniors are waiting on a wait list, and that's, to me, unconscionable.
Right. I guess we can't speculate to his reasons, but I have not really read something to me it sounds like a great investment in Maine. Mm-hmm. Not just solving the problem for seniors, but I mean, it's jobs.
Yep. Yeah. Good
It's
paying
development,
jobs.
good
Yep.
paying jobs. Is there I mean, of course, this is your baby, but
Mm-hmm.
is there a reasonable criticism of that position, that this is an investment in Maine jobs and the Maine economy?
That is one of the reasons I think it was successful in getting through the legislature, because we were able to make that argument about jobs in the economy and how it benefits each local community. So that was not just the fact that seniors have affordable, safe, warm housing,
right.
but that we are creating jobs. And I think even some of the governor's supporters are a little frustrated and wonder why this hasn't been released.
I think that's an important point, because if it was just philosophy, I could see the disagreement. But my God, what else do we need here but job stimulus, and especially when it's put to good purpose.
That's right.
So one of the pillars of your initiative has been increasing pay for the IHSS workers, the people that actually provide the care in the homes of seniors.
That's right.
Jess Maurer predicted that if that didn't occur, that we would see a little bit of a collapse of the providers of that type of care, and I actually work in that industry. I'm very familiar with that. And I think we have seen significant change so there has not been able to be an increase to those workers because of the holding back of the bond. Is that correct?
Well, two separate issues. The one was the bond that went out to the voters that's being not passed, not released by the governor.
Right.
The other, which you're talking about, is increasing direct care worker wages.
Yes.
We were able to pass that through the budget this past session.
Oh, great.
I believe it's $4 million that we put in addition, into the budget. And that gets us about halfway there.
Yeah.
The department did a rate study in terms of what would an adequate wage be. They said we needed to put $8 million more in. We got halfway there. And again, in that political environment, you take what you can get.
Yes.
And we built a great coalition with Republican colleagues. And in that circumstance, it was Representative Ellie Espling, the assistant minority leader in the Republican House caucus, that was helpful in getting that legislation passed. And it's those types of partnerships that make things successful. So
right.
We really wanted to make a commitment from the outset that this was going to be, it's not going to be a partisan issue, because it's not. And in the State House, it's a very difficult thing to do. But those that I worked with, including my Republican colleagues, we all made a commitment to make sure that we kept our heads down, we looked at the facts, and we tried to make progress and not let the politics get caught up in it. So the direct care wages piece is critical, because the system, it is fragile.
Yes.
To put it, kindly. It's we saw in the nursing home field, there were a couple nursing homes that had closed, and that prompted legislators to do something. Well, what we wanted to do is let's not have agencies and organizations close before we act. Let's get in front of this and make sure that if a senior wants to stay in their home and they need a little bit of support to do that,
Right.
We have the workers there to do it, and we pay them adequately.
Yes, right. In my own professional life, I've been a director of home care agencies in Los Angeles, in Monterey, which is a western rural environment, and then here. And so part of what makes Maine so beautiful also makes it very, very difficult in the home care industry as opposed to, say, an urban environment. And so, for example, I could advertise in the Los Angeles Times on a Sunday, and on Monday have 30 qualified applicants. That is not happening in Maine. We're confronted with a worker shortage economy. Workforce availability is a huge issue here. What can you tell us about that?
Well, I think that is the real work of the next legislature, and I'm termed out, and one of the things that we're doing right now is going around the state, having a listening tour with seniors to hear directly from them, what do you think needs to happen? And one theme that's coming out is there aren't enough workers to really support the need out there. And the workforce development piece related to direct care workers that work with seniors in their homes is one that needs to be tackled. Not just the wage issue, where we need to pay them an adequate wage, but also really defining and developing career ladders for individuals that come into the field, that they have an opportunity to see, you know what, this is a field that I want to participate in because it's what I want to do, but I also see a future for myself in it, and one that I can continue to advance. So I think there's a lot of work to be done around the workforce development issue as it relates to having the workers there to be able to provide the services to do exactly what we know seniors want, and that is to live in their homes and age with dignity.
Yes. Well, and it's a real cost saving to the overall healthcare system too, because even a couple hours a day of a person in a home helping a senior can keep them out of an ER, keep them out of the hospital, thwart hospital admissions, that type of thing. And, you know, along with our growing aging demographic, we'll have more of a strain on the healthcare system itself. So it only makes sense.
That's right. It's avoided costs of making sure that we're doing these types of interventions to keep people out of longer term, whether it's assisted living or nursing home level of care, that it makes financial sense and it's what seniors want. So we should double down and make sure that we're focused on getting that part right.
Right. So now I was shocked to learn these statistics, but first, just the fact that we will depend on a migration of workers into our state, whether it's from other states or other countries, not just the healthcare sector, but really all sectors. I know you've been really digging deeply into that. And the number from Charlie Colgan was 7,000 just in the next few years. I mean, 5,000 in the next few years per year, that we need 5,000 per year coming into it. And then growing to 7,000 per year coming into the state.
Yeah, and that's only to replace the retiring workers.
Yes.
And if we can't find the workers, then labor costs go up, and it just creates a downward spiral for our economy. So yeah, Charlie Colgan got it right. You know, he gave the example of, even if we locked our borders and we didn't let any kid leave that is born from now till a number of decades out, we still wouldn't meet that shortage. So it has to be a strategy around keeping young folks here, attracting them back, and also a strategy around our immigrant population, where when you look around the country and you see cities that have done this well and right, you see growth, and that's exactly what we need to do, is make sure that we're plugging in and being, I think, welcoming and opening and aligning those new Mainers that come with the jobs that are here. The ones, individuals that I talk to, they want to work, they want to be productive, they want to be part of their community, they want to pay taxes, and we need to make sure that we're creating an environment that allows that. And the healthcare industry is a major industry, a major driver of our economy in Maine. And if we start to struggle with, more than we are right now, a labor shortage and a workforce shortage, we need to get ahead of this curve in the same way that we wanted to increase those rates before the system collapsed. We want to make sure that we have a strategy to attract new Mainers here, whether they come from New Hampshire, Vermont, or around the world. I think Maine needs to really create an environment where we're welcoming a workforce that we're going to need for our economy.
Right, and so, not to get political, but just at a time when it's but for the past few years, it's really being recognized that this needs to occur. Now, much of our political discourse in the country is very anti-immigration.
Yeah, and I think it's a challenge for Maine. I think it's a challenge for our country, and that's why I feel strongly that leaders, when they have an opportunity to really encourage folks to move here, they're not going to unless they feel welcomed and supported and safe.
Right.
And as a leader in the legislature, I've always tried to project that, to say that we are a welcoming state. We care about our neighbors, and whether we look like one another or not, we're one big state, and we all contribute to our success.
Yes, yes. So is there a, within Maine legislature, is there a caucus or a body or task force or people working on this actively right now, this particular issue?
So as it relates to the workforce
yes,
piece?
the workforce, yes.
So what we were able to do this last term was establish what we referred to as an aging caucus. There's all kinds of caucuses within the legislature. There's a rural caucus that focuses on rural issues, a transportation one. Well, this was an aging one, and it got really good support from the legislature in terms of participation. And we picked focus areas, and that's partly how the Keep Me Home initiatives were defined and were successful.
Right.
So that's a real opportunity to continue that, to start working on issues like the workforce issue, whether it's pay or attracting new workers. We're looking for new legislative leaders so that after we do the listening tour, we have policy positions of what the next legislature should be focused on from the feedback out in communities, and looking for legislative leaders in the new legislature to continue the work that we've been able to do over the last couple years and do it pretty successfully.
Got it. That's an important one for all of us as Mainers to learn about, I think. I just have a feeling that most of us are behind the curve on that, and I know that's why you're out educating our communities about this. Could you give us an update on, because I'm unaware, what happened with the property tax relief and what's going on with that for seniors?
Yeah, and that's something, I've knocked on doors for 4 election cycles. I don't have to this one because I'm termed out, but I always hear that, particularly from seniors who are living on a fixed income. We used to have a pretty healthy, robust, what we refer to as the circuit breaker program, where there was property tax relief. You got a rebate in the mail based on income, and it could have been up to $1,600, and that helped seniors catch up on property taxes. It helped them catch up on their oil bill. When the governor came in, he's pretty much zeroed it out. And that is something we heard about loud and clear. That, in combination with doing things such as eliminating revenue sharing and just putting a real strain on the towns as it relates to property taxes. What we have been able to do since that point a number of years ago is start to build that back up. And this past legislature, we were able to get that back up to, I believe for seniors, it's up to $900. But it needs to be much more robust than that. And that's just one tool that we can use that we know is successful, that is meaningful to people, that helps stimulate our economy. And other ideas that I've heard that we haven't been able to be successful on have been things like freezing property taxes for seniors on fixed incomes, or doing that at a local level. I believe the town of Saco in York County, they have a program where if you do volunteer hours or other community contributing activities, then they can actually give you a discount or a rebate on property taxes, and it's managed at the local municipal level.
Right.
But property taxes, we were able to provide a little bit more relief. It's something that we have to continue to do more. We need to be doing twice as much as what we did this past session, but we were able to move the needle a little bit.
Yeah. Speaker Reeves, we're actually headed towards a conclusion here, as I thought there's nowhere near enough time to really speak to you as much as I'd like to. But so I know that political adversarialness is basically a zero-sum game. Nobody really gains. And I know that you have actually, in this past legislature, accomplished a great deal of collaboration across the aisle. Could you tell us about, I know that you've had quite a number of bills passed, actually. Could you talk about that?
Sure, and as it relates to this issue, we've been able to successfully pass 18 independent pieces of legislation, 3 of which are the KeepME home initiatives that we talked about.
Yes.
The way that we were able to do that is really building those relationships with Republican colleagues, including Senator Burns, who is a Republican senator from Washington County who cares about this issue deeply. We connected on it and made that commitment to keep the politics out. The relationship that we were able to develop with the Senate President, Mike Thibodeau, he was very open to working on these issues as well. So I think, just like in life, in the legislature, relationships matter, and they certainly matter at the State House. And I've always tried to conduct myself in a way that allows for good relationships. We didn't talk a little bit about my background, which I do come out of the field of, I've got a master's degree in marriage and family therapy. I've had a clinical practice. I've worked for agencies, and that skill set of relationship building, of negotiating, of always being at the table, never burning bridges, it's an important skill set to have if you're going to be an effective legislator. So I think those that I named before have that. I always try to make sure that we're focused on getting results, and this issue in particular allows for that. It really isn't a partisan issue,
right?
Unless we allow it to be.
Right.
And it was just an intense focus on making sure that we were getting results for a policy issue that is something we got to get right.
Well, that's absolutely true. The crucialness of the issue should transcend the politics, and smart-minded people come together. And I mean, we're counting on you leading us into the future here, and I really get just how serious this is. So thank you for your leadership.
Well, thank you for your time. It's been great talking about it.
All right. There we are, another episode of Spotlight on Seniors. Keep yourself informed about this. And our state right now, what we need is engaged people volunteering where they can, because the demographics here are demanding that of us. We are challenged to, all of us, step up into a larger game to keep this the beautiful state that it is. Speaker Eads, thank you.